Before the 2018 draft, Josh Rosen was seen as one of the best quarterbacks, if not the best QB in the class. He'd end up being the fourth QB taken, though, at number 10. He was seen as the best pocket passer in the class still, though. But what happened? Josh Rosen was a good pocket passer, and that's one of the reasons he failed in Arizona. The Cardinals' O-line was atrocious, and Rosen could not show the best of his game out there. And when he was traded to Miami, this was still the main problem. All of this and bad coaching in Arizona is why he didn't grow. He didn't have the right support around him to become an elite quarterback or even a decent one. I do believe Rosen could have been good with the right pieces around him, though, but there was some weaknesses to his game that held him back. Pocket passing was really all he could do. He wasn't very mobile, and he did struggle a small amount to read defenses. His arm was questionable at times, but it wasn't a major flaw or anything. And this is almost like Fields, except Fields can scramble and play make, but can't pocket pass or read defenses. So just kind of like, I feel like you guys would know what I mean. Just switch out the pocket passing for the scrambling, just kind of flip flop. It seems as if being able to be a playmaker is more valuable than pocket passing, and that's probably why we're seeing That's why we saw Fields get such a long time in Chicago, and why we're seeing him potentially get another chance now in the Steelers. But let's not get too far ahead here. How was Rosen's time with the Cards? He went 3-10 in his games started and threw 2,278 yards, 11 touchdowns, and 14 picks. He was throwing the ball to Larry Fitzgerald, who was kind of exiting his prime at this time in 2018. Chad Williams and Christian Kirk, and Christian Kirk did develop into a nice player, and he's with the Jags now. His best offensive lineman was probably DJ Humphries, and he's kind of seen as just like a mediocre, all-right guy in the NFL. And I don't think the Cards should have drafted the Murray the next year after. Now, I'm looking back at the time. I mean, now it does look good, but looking back at the time, I think it would have made more sense to try to, you know, help develop Rosen. And I know that's unpopular, but they could have traded down to 6 with the Giants potentially, and also maybe gotten the 18th pick. They could have chose Chris Lindstrom at 6, which I'm trying to stay relative to the position the guys were taken before. Like, even though there might be a way better guy in the 3rd round, I'm just going to, at that time, that would have been terrible. But they could have traded down to 6 and chose Chris Lindstrom. And as 17, they really could have gone with anything. It was the 17th pick, not 18th. Whether it was Noah Fant or maybe even a defensive player. And at 33, they could have taken a guy like Deebo Samuels. He was taken just a couple picks after 33, and they definitely did kind of pass on him there. And obviously at that time we didn't know how good he is now, but I'm still saying they should have tried to build the offense around Rosen instead of plugging Murray into an already failing offense. However, the case is that Rosen was traded, so let's get out of hypotheticals, and Rosen would go to the Dolphins, another failing organization. He played 3 games, lost all of them, threw 1 touchdown to 5 interceptions. His yards weren't impressive with only 567. But the Dolphins were not a good team either. Their best receiver is Devontae Parker, who was a good player in his prime, but he was never elite. The offensive line was miserable, especially compared to, the Dolphins line today. And to be honest, Rosen had another shot, but couldn't do anything with it. It didn't show why a team should give him any sort of chance again. Even though I think he could have been good with the right supporting cast, he, didn't show that he deserved it. But with that being said, the Falcons did sign him in 21, where he would throw 11 total passes. 4 of them were completions, except half of those completions were to the other team. Rosen would bounce around to the 49ers, Browns, Buccaneers. I didn't find anything about him making the Bucs practice squad, but I'm not too sure on that. And the Vikings. And I want to say he went to the Browns, or he went to the Vikings, then got swooped up on the Browns practice squad. And with the Buccaneers, I want to say it was most likely 2020, because there's a photo of him next to Tom Brady at practice. And if I had to compare an upcoming quarterback to Josh Rosen, it would be Drake May. I feel like that's going to get a lot of flack, but May is a bit more athletic. But I think May will fail without the right supporting cast, and I could definitely see this being a Josh Rosen situation. I know that might get a bit of heat, but I really do believe that. It almost feels as if Rosen wasn't good enough to play in the NFL, though. And obviously he needed that good development. But I would argue that 90% of rookies aren't ready for the NFL. So when he was thrown into it as a rookie on an awful team, he didn't get to grow. And I'd say that if Rosen got to get under the right coaches, sit behind an actually good quarterback, and have a good O-line, he could have grown. But you can say that about many quarterbacks, but it's not always true. I would say if Rosen just got one of those, ideally offensive line, we'd be talking about him as a top, you know, at least 25 guy today. Not going to push it too much, but not of all time in the league currently. Maybe similar to like Gardner Minshew or Derek Carr.